discussion on Global Mirror tonight. Let's quickly talk about what has been happening between America and Ukraine and how Ukraine has finally agreed to a 30-day ceasefire, but the ball now lies in Russia's court. Take a look at what exactly happened in that meeting that happened between US and Ukraine in Saudi Arabia.
After more than 3 years of a brutal war, a historic shift in diplomacy, Ukraine and the United States have finally struck a deal, setting a new course in Ukraine's ongoing battle against Russia. The meeting took place in Jeddah, Saudi Arabia, a far cry from the tense diplomatic clashes back in Washington. In a dramatic face-off, Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky walked out of the Oval Office without an agreement, leaving tensions high. It was a fiery exchange, with President Trump famously warning Zelensky that without US support, Ukraine wouldn't last 2 days against Russia. And now, in an unexpected twist, Trump has proven himself as the peacemaker, facilitating a breakthrough between the two nations. In this historic meeting, Ukraine has agreed to a 30-day ceasefire proposal, signaling a willingness to de-escalate the conflict. The United States, in turn, has lifted its pause on intelligence sharing and resumed security assistance to Ukraine. Shortly after the talks, Zelensky expressed optimism, stating, and I quote, "Ukraine is ready to accept this proposal. We see it as a positive step and are ready to take it. Now it's up to the United States to convince Russia to do the same," unquote. This meeting in Jeddah marks a key diplomatic breakthrough. Donald Trump hailed the talks and stated that he will talk to Russian President Vladimir Putin over the peace deal. Now the ball is firmly in Russia's court. With mounting international pressure, Moscow's next move could determine the future of the conflict. Will Russia choose diplomacy and peace, or will it continue its aggressive path? The fate of Ukraine and the region now hangs in the balance. Will this moment of peace hold? Only time will tell. Bureau Report, Mirror Now.
And our big focus tonight on Global Mirror is Prime Minister Narendra Modi's Mauritius visit.
आज हमके मॉरिशस के धरती पर आप लोगन के बीच आके बहुत खुशी होत बाटे। Mauritius is not just a partner country. For us, Mauritius is family.
Prime Minister Narendra Modi concluded his Mauritius visit as he attended the country's 57th National Day celebrations, as the Indian Prime Minister and his Mauritian counterpart shared a hug at the Port Louis airport. Both leaders knew that the India-Mauritius relationship is a crucial need of the hour, and that is why the ties were elevated to the enhanced strategic partnership.
साथियों, आज प्रधानमंत्री नवीन चंद्र रामगुलाम और मैंने भारत मॉरिशस साझेदारी को एनहेंस स्ट्रेटेजिक पार्टनरशिप का दर्जा देने का निर्णय लिया है। हमने निर्णय लिया कि मॉरिशस में पार्लियामेंट की नई बिल्डिंग बनाने में भारत सहयोग करेगा। यह मदर ऑफ डेमोक्रेसी की ओर से मॉरिशस को भेंट होगी।
The two countries signed 8 MOUs, including a credit facility agreement between the government of Mauritius and the State Bank of India to finance projects under the Central Water Authority's pipe replacement program, and another one between the Central Bank of Mauritius and the Reserve Bank of India on a local currency settlement system, which will aid smoother financial transactions. A technical agreement was also signed between the Indian Navy and the Mauritius Police Force for sharing white shipping information, essentially reinforcing maritime security collaboration. The two prime ministers also inaugurated the Civil Services Building, the construction of which was completed at an approximate cost of over 40 crore rupees. Now, for more reasons than one, India and Mauritius have shared concerns. Under India's Sagar initiative, or Security and Growth for All region, the island is an important partner to maintain stability in the Indian Ocean region. Maritime cooperation and the island's critical position in the Western Indian Ocean remains important, a reason why it has earned the name of Star and Key of the Indian Ocean. So let's try and get a perspective of why this is important for both India and Mauritius, and why the two countries have now elevated their partnership to enhance strategic partnership. On Global Mirror, I'm joined by Veena Sikri. She's a former ambassador. I'm also joined by Sameer Bhattacharya, Associate Fellow at the ORF. Good evening and namaskar to both of you. Ambassador Veena Sikri, let me begin with you. Help us understand why the Indo-Mauritian ties are important at a time when India is actively trying to counter the Chinese expansionist policy.
Well, I think the most important aspect of the relationship between India and Mauritius, before I come to the security aspects, is, the civilizational and people-to-people relationship. As our Prime Minister said when he was there, with Mauritius, it's more than just a bilateral relationship, it is family. Because really the people from Mauritius, they really have these family concerns towards India. They have all traced their roots from the place in India where they left, and they maintain those relationships. And it's amazing. Even recently, when I was in Prayagraj, I met a minister from there, and they really, really do cherish this as part and parcel of their own identity. So this is very important that our Prime Minister's presence there. They're inviting him. The second time they invited him for being present at their very special National Day celebrations. The first was in 2015, and now 10 years later, again in 2025. So this is very important. I think the way in which the whole concept of Sagar was actually enunciated in Mauritius first, security and growth for all in the region. This was, this was our Prime Minister's very early focus on maritime security. So this issue of maritime security, this issue of the Indian Ocean being a very critical aspect. It is the bedrock of India's security, is India's maritime security in the Indian Ocean region and Indo-Pacific region. So I think Mauritius plays a key role in this, and it is really important that India and Mauritius see eye to eye on this. In fact, one of the most important aspects is that recently, for many years, Mauritius has been, having negotiations with UK on regaining control over the Chagos archipelago. And, India has been a bedrock of support for them in these negotiations, which Mauritius has fully recognized. Even at the very end, when the negotiations were successful, they fully recognized India's role. And, the Chagos archipelago is very important, again, for maritime security in the Indian Ocean. It also, Diego Garcia, the very well-known American base in this area, is also a part of the Chagos archipelago. So in exchange for the return of sovereignty to Mauritius, the Diego Garcia base is being given on a long-term agreement to the UK and so to the USA. So in all of this, India has been standing beside Mauritius, and this is very important. You rightly mentioned about the role of China and how they've been infiltrating and showing, an unprecedentedly greater interest in the Indian Ocean. They have their ships coming, their so-called research ships, and then they want their ships to dock, whether at Hambantota or in Maldives and so on. So obviously these are matters of great concern, and we have really responded to the concern and interest of the Mauritius people with the extensive support that we are giving them. So as you saw, not only now it's an enhanced strategic partnership, but 8 agreements have been signed, and on a wide range of subjects, including training of some of their civil service officers in India, building of the new Mauritian Parliament building, and so many other aspects like that. And in fact, over the last years, India has given more than $1 billion in assistance in such bilateral assistance to Mauritius. And they really value and recognize this. So I think this visit is very successful, very important. And, to the Sagar concept, our Prime Minister added Mahasagar, mutual and holistic growth of the Sagar relationship. So really speaking, it is a Mahasagar. The Indian Ocean is a Mahasagar, and it's very important that Mauritius be with us
Yeah.
and be a part of us. But I've really seen a country like this where the leadership and the people, their enthusiasm, their strength, they're valuing the Indian relationship so well, ranging from
Yeah.
every area of cooperation.
Yeah, just the fact
Industrial.
that Prime Minister Modi spoke in Bhojpuri and the
Yes.
people of Mauritius do understand that, that's really, reflective of the kind of cultural and historical ties that we've had with Mauritius. But Samir Bhattacharya, coming to you, due to its strategic location, Mauritius also serves as a gateway to Africa, and that is where it becomes important because China is already making inroads with its BRI, the Belt and Road Initiative, into Africa, and that's why India needs to be up and about and, make sure that at least that region is not permeated by or influenced by or dominated by the Chinese expansionist policy.
Yeah, so thank you for having me here. First of all, as Modi ji has said, it is not only Mauritius is not only gateway to Africa, it is a gateway to global South. So, but coming to the point, yes, Mauritius is a very important geopolitically located region, and it is I would rather say it is the fulcrum of Indian Ocean region. Now, if you, in last few years, other country, you have USA base in Diego Garcia. Last year, UK has, given back the Chagos Island sovereignty to Mauritius. The Chagos Island used to belong to UK. Then you have Réunion Island, where France is it belongs to France. It's a French island, and that extensive presence of China, as you have mentioned. So over there, the region is geopolitically, with all these external actors present, it's very important. Now, India for India, Mauritius has been always an important country. So you see, if when in 2014 Modi ji won the election for the first time, he invited Mauritius PM, and so it was the same in 2015. He visited Mauritius as the chief guest for this National Day celebration. In 2019 and 2024, both the occasions in his oath ceremony, he invited Mauritius. Last year, India inaugurated one airstrip in that Agalega Island, which is going to help India to. That was an airstrip which was a long time in making, but India finally completed the building of this airstrip, a long airstrip, which will help India to use long flights, or even the cooperations, the MOUs that India has signed in that region with Mauritius this time. If you see the white shipping agreement, the India has donated in 2007 one first interceptor craft. This time also India did an MOU with the Mauritian Coast Guard. India did some on research on this ocean research, because Mauritius is an island country. It also has a very huge EEZ, and in that EEZ, it is very difficult for Mauritius as a small country to to maintain its the surveillance. There are piracy activities going on there. There are IUU, which is illegal fishing, and then there are this region, the seabed of that region is very rich with lot of critical minerals. So Mauritius as a country does not have adequate capacity. So India did lot of this MOUs will help. These MOUs will pave the way for India-Mauritius cooperation to explore these things, and also with that Agalega Island, and also India's connection with Mauritius.
Yes.
I think it is going to India is giving the message that we are the net security provider of the region. India is already been the first responder whenever there is cyclone. Last year there was a cyclone in Mauritius, and India was the first country to reply.
Yes.
So this time, with all this, once all these things getting implemented, India is going to definitely become a more important player as a security partner in that region.
Right. Ambassador Veena Sikri, we're talking about how India wants to establish itself as the net security provider. We're talking about the Chinese influence, but it's not just China that is exerting or trying to exert its influence in the Indian Ocean region, isn't it? You've got Europe as well. You've got the likes of Russia, the Gulf states coming in and trying to dominate the region as well.
Yes, of course. I mean, these countries' interest is there. France has a Reunion Island and all that. But I think in the last few years, it is China's activity in the region that have aroused the concern not only of India, but of all the other Western powers as well. Because China's aggressive presence in this region, and they're wanting to map the Indian Ocean floor. They're looking for, various resources there, minerals there, and lay claim to ownership of that. And also, if you look at Mauritius in the context of its very large EEZ, economic zone, it is very important because this Agalega Island that was just mentioned, this is 1,000 kilometers away from Mauritius. So you can imagine if you include that in mapping the economic zone of Mauritius, the sea area it controls, it's huge. It's a very large part, a significant part of the Indian Ocean. And India's mapping the security map of the Indian Ocean with Mauritius means a very big presence of India in the Indian Ocean area. And as you rightly mentioned, when you take the fact that Mauritius for India is also a window into Africa, because Mauritius is part of the African Union, they're part of that region. Mauritius can very easily be a bridge for India's cooperation with Africa. And a lot of projects are being created in that way, especially for the eastern coast of Africa. And as you know, the eastern coast of Africa is the westernmost tip of the Indian Ocean area. So, this is a whole area. If you look at the whole Indian Ocean region on the map, with the East Africa on the western side and India on the eastern side, and there is Mauritius playing this important role in between. I think the various aspects covered really have projected India not only as a security provider but as a leader of the global South. In the way in which it is able to help a country like Mauritius in key areas to help them grow. This whole question of civil service training, of the Coast Guard cooperation, of the way in which our Coast Guard will help them to protect their interests in the Indian Ocean area. It's the multidimensional nature of this cooperation that has given great significance to the visit and to the agreements that have been signed.
Absolutely. I think with the smaller island nations, India has always been, as we've been talking about, the first responder in times of crisis and, in general, aiding these countries in their overall development, whether it's infrastructure or healthcare or education. But Samir Bhattacharya, talking about the bilateral trade between the two countries, that's also very important because India remains one of the largest trading partners for Mauritius. In fact, in FY 23-24, that total trade between the two countries hit about $700 to $800 million. There is also, of course, Mauritius, which is the second largest source of FDI as well. So in terms of the bilateral trade that the two countries have, it's only going to be strengthening here on, isn't it? Despite the fact that Mauritius does have Chinese investments as well.
There are two things. So first of all, Mauritius, a few years ago, Mauritius used to be our number one investor. Now it has been overtaken by Singapore. But there are, since 2015, there were some changes, regulations in the bilateral investment treaties. And these treaties, Mauritius government has repeatedly requested Indian government to revisit those regulations, those, inside those treaties, those provisions. So probably this time we are going to, there are talks that we are going to revisit those terms. So once those terms are, revoked, probably Mauritius is going to regain its position as the number one investor. Now, number two is the trade. Yes, India is it's a very important partner for Mauritius. In 2021, India signed a comprehensive economic partnership agreement, a Ceasefire with Mauritius. And with this visit, despite, Mauritius economy is mostly service-based economy. So it has a lot of tourism potential. It has Indian fintech is present there, Indian banking industry. But after this visit, when India has signed a deal on there was an MOU on MSME cooperation. There was a deal on technical cooperation. There is a deal to train civil servants, and obviously, Modi ji went there just before the Holi. So you see the cultural, as Ambassador Sikri said, that cultural diplomacy is very important part of India's outreach to Mauritius. With this 70% population that traces their route back to India, 50% of them are Hindus. So and this Holi festival, Holi is one of the, after Mahashivratri, Holi is probably the second biggest festival in Mauritius. So this, I think, with this trip, after this visit, that is going to, the tourism sector is also going to get a lot of boom. And I think this pilgrim tourism, this is also going to get a lot of, lot of boom, yes.
Yeah, interesting point there. Ambassador Sikri, you want to come in on this, the fact that there are religious and cultural ties that bind India and Mauritius. There is a shared colonial past, the freedom struggle, the exploitation by the colonial powers is something that India and Mauritius, share, that all that struggle that they grapple with, the pain that the entire two nations went through. Also the fact that the current Prime Minister's father had closely worked with freedom fighters of India like Netaji Subhash Chandra Bose. So that really binds the two nations together, and the current Prime Minister taking forward the legacy that India and Mauritius have had in the past.
Yes, absolutely. The history of indentured labor from India that went to Mauritius. I mean, this is absolutely something very moving. I mean, the way the British took this labor and, threw them into Mauritius and many other places, Trinidad, Tobago, and of course, even Malaysia, all that. And the way they were treated so poorly, they were treated so bitterly, but they survived it all. I mean, the tenacity of the indentured labor that went from here, the way they had overcome all these absolutely brutalities inflicted on them, but they never gave up. They never gave up hope. They never gave up their aspirational approach, and they never gave up their links with India. So this is remarkable. And I think that the way in which under Prime Minister Modi, the diaspora have become so central to the bridges of friendship that India is building with countries across the world. Now, this is remarkable because I think this is what has made the diaspora so happy in their interaction with Prime Minister Modi, because they feel they are wanted in India, and they feel that India values their presence for building these bridges of friendship. And they have responded with such happiness, with such, absolutely wonderful and positive response, not only by the leadership, as you can see from all the visuals you're showing, but also by the ordinary person in these countries. And this has been one of the important, points in stepping up the relationship to new heights. When you have an enhanced strategic partnership and you're going to build, especially on the earlier ties, you're telling the people of Mauritius that we value you, we value your presence, we want you to come to India, we want to be here with you, and we want you to play this big role, in the friendship between the two countries, and in developing this further, because in this day and age, as we see the global geopolitics really going through many hoops and turns, we don't know where it's going to settle finally. But in all of this, building these friendships with our neighborhood in the Indian Ocean, for our maritime security, this is what is going to, strengthen and cement India's role as a Vishwabandhu, as a friend of the world, as a Vishwaguru. But it's more, I would much more say Vishwabandhu, as a friend of the world, as a brother to everybody, willing to help them in whatever way they need, but also willing to share our civilizational heritage with them. And wherever there's a response on this, you see great progress. And this is very important, because we look at the journey from indentured labor to here, and how the Indian diaspora has done so well and established themselves so well. It is really remarkable.
Yeah. All right, we'll leave it there. Thank you very much to both of you, Ambassador Veena Sikri and Sameer Bhattacharya, for joining us on Global Mirror. Hopefully, India and Maldives ties will only strengthen from here on. We'll leave it there. Thank you very much to both of you for joining us tonight. With that, ladies and gentlemen, it's a wrap on Global Mirror tonight. Thank you very much for joining us. Bye-bye. Good night. Up next is Sneha Koshy with Beyond the Headline.